The year of fucking it up every time. I was gonna see how the sound works.
It sounds like it's echoing.
Yeah,
as
you're not even
predicted.
on. You're not even
It's
on.
echoing.
Turn your sound all the way off and see if that works.
It's muted now.
All right, I'll say something. See if we can hear you. Okay.
I will say something, and I'll see if you can hear me.
Can you hear him, Adam?
I can't hear him at all. Yeah, I can hear him.
How
How about now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I hear you fine.
Okay.
I can
Okay.
see him too. Is there any way to turn his camera off or no?
Yeah, that's the bigger problem.
I was just trying to be funny, man. I didn't mean nothing by it.
All right, let's see if we can actually get our sponsors in here.
Oh, the sponsor reel. Yeah, there we go. It's not gonna work.
Jazz Cabbage Cafe is sponsored by Stone Depot, Redemption Cannabis, Real Leaf Solutions, Detroit Nutrient Company, GrowGreenMI.com, Custom 420 Promos with a CultureClothing.club, and Meds Cafe. Hey, hey, hey.
Hey,
So we're live. We're broadcasting from the Causeway Hotel. We did this last year. This is where the Sensi magazine Mardi Gras industry event was going to take place. And Kirk Reed says something.
Congratulations to Kirk Reed. I hear you
Got
just
some good shit going on, yeah. Products and engagements, I think. Congratulations, Kirk. Smith,
Kirk and Brandy getting engaged.
Hawaii.
It was fantastic.
Did you see how they did it? Did you see how Kirk popped the question? It was very romantic.
Yes,
Yes, it was.
very romantic.
Romance. That was the way to do it.
We'll normally think of Kirk and romance at the same time, but
I try
give
not.
this one to him.
I'm sure some people do.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm sure Brandy's not the only one.
I noticed Rick got a little excited.
What's happening?
So Rick's here too at the event. We'll have some other people probably come on, be around the event. There's maybe even the person who actually put the event on, who actually
Even
heads
asked
up
for
the Sensi
permission when he did
magazine. She brought me here. Then I got yelled at, but they didn't come back again.
Oh, you got yelled at?
Yeah. So you can try to get in there with
Sit right over.
and then let's see if we can hear you.
Oh, hey, look who's there.
Can you hear her okay?
Yeah. No,
Okay, there's no way we're not going to hear that.
Yeah. Boom it out.
She's muted, but that's my favorite snow bunny right there.
We're
I don't
it's
think
gonna
you
be
can say
ice
that
bunny
anymore.
tomorrow.
We're all going to be a little bit of a nice bunny tomorrow.
So this is the second year. This is a licensed event. There'll be people here.
Third year.
Third year.
Right? I'm sorry.
It's the third Mardi Gras. So the
Oh,
first
third
one,
Mardi Gras.
the first one was 2019, and then COVID hit.
Easy to forget about
Yeah,
that.
and then last year we had license for sales. This year it's not licensed because our vendors didn't make a whole lot of money, like it really wasn't worth it. So we went to them and they were like, we're okay just having it about the community.
Okay.
So
Very cool.
But you have quite a selection of vendors here for today, right?
yeah, we probably have about 20 vendors with tables, brands, and just a lot of fun. We have some, I always butcher, poochkies on the way.
Yeah.
Good
enough.
Man, yeah, I mean, people love them here in Michigan.
There are people
for
camping out almost the night before around where I live for those
Really?
things. Man.
Yeah. Well, it's Fat Tuesday for those people that don't know, and that's a traditional treat here in the Metro Detroit area. Is punchkis. It's a Polish thing.
And
Punch.
of course,
Yeah.
large population. Plus, the state has 10% Poles.
Well,
I mean, that's a lot of strippers, but
Yeah.
if you think that's an accurate estimate.
Hamtramck really blew it up. When Hamtramck became a Polish city, it brought punchkis to the Detroit and it's never been the same since, and our waistlines have only gotten bigger.
Imagine an oversized donut covered in powdered sugar with great stuff on the inside. That's a punchki.
Custard.
I wasn't sure where you were going with that when you said imagine an oversized donut. But all right.
Wait, you have a guilty conscience there, right? Well, no.
No, I've lost 40 pounds. I'm doing
I
pretty
know. I've seen it.
Huh?
We've been talking about it.
I'm thinning out in the face, I was told.
Looking kind of spry too.
You're gonna have to
You
go back
move
on
around a
Tinder.
lot
I
easier.
got that Don Sinclair beard thing going.
Nice.
Talked to John a little earlier today.
Yeah, that's a phone call I got to make.
Man, the legend, John Sinclair. So this is actually Causeway Bay is kind of fun. There's a big central courtyard in the middle of the hotel, open air, open to the sky, glass walls all the way around, and you let people set up booths outside, right?
Yes.
Inside but outside.
Yes, so there's, if people want to take dabs, there are equipment pieces outside to allow people to do so. And yeah, it's such a great space. This hotel really is a great space. I mean, like when you roll up here, you kind of like, what? Because the outside is a little beaten looking, but man, this space, you should see this carpet in this ballroom. It's like, it's such a fun venue to host an event. I feel like it's perfect. And, having a venue that's going to allow us to have this type of event is huge. That's the hardest thing that we have to deal with in this industry is finding good venues that are going to allow us to do what we want to do.
Cooperative partners that don't really ask you to spend 3 times the normal rate just because they're worried because their cannabis is in the title of your event. I understand that there are beer-themed tacos in a truck coming out today. Birria.
Oh my gosh. Like birria tacos are incredible. You like dip it in like I think it's called consomme. Maybe?
It was kind of marinated in a certain thing for over a day. There's some whole
Yeah.
process that goes into that. What
Wow.
makes these?
I looked it up on the internet and I immediately knew that it was something that I was not capable of cooking at home.
They are awesome. Those are around here. Then
Yeah.
it would be a better night than I thought.
Yeah, they are. We have
Yeah.
that, and we also have Elite here, and they have like catfish and kind of that soul food.
Take that too.
Yeah, it feels like New Orleans.
Yeah, a little bit of everything.
A little colder.
A little bit. And Mardi Gras being the theme, New Orleans is important. They closed parts of Mardi Gras, I understand, due to the cold weather this year. Probably saved a lot of, I can't say it on camera. Saved a lot of women from frostbite. Let's just say
I know
that.
I noticed there were some beads available on the way in.
Yes, beads, masks.
Assuming throwing those around
Right.
will net the same results as if we were in.
Wow. That's a different kind of B2B event, Jamie.
Right. B2B. I love it.
I know.
I think it's important to note as well that, events like this, not everything that has to fall into the licensed sector of things, right? Because it is costly for many things. So having an open freedom to do things in the confines of, the law and what a municipality or a business will allow you
Right.
is important.
Providing a fun platform that is based around networking is a need. So now,
Yeah.
however that is set up, it
Right.
will work.
Mhm.
No
Yeah.
question about it. We were joined by Josie and Marlena in the meantime.
For the record,
Yeah.
I would like to point out. 80,
Oh, sorry, Adam.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I wanted to point out for the record, it is 80 degrees in New Orleans today.
Maybe it's
So-
too cold.
Right.
What we would do for 80 degrees right now.
Actually, I think it might have been Carnival.
I wouldn't ask that
Oh,
question.
okay.
So, yeah. But whatever. Semi-accurate news, courtesy of Jazz Cabbage Cafe.
Semi.
Yeah, right. Josie, what do you got going on? It looks to me like you're down at the Redemption Cannabis headquarters there.
And maybe
Yes,
making over here later on.
I don't know who it is, but they're smoking a lot of it. I can smell it all over the place. I thought it was you, but then you're on the show, so I'm like, maybe not.
Mm.
Jamie included us this year in the Mardi Gras party, and we're so excited. We did a holiday a holiday event with Sensi. We got 130 gifts out of it. It's like $700. It was incredible. I was so impressed. All we had to do was show up and talk about what we did, right? Jamie took care of everything, so we were really excited to be included again. In fact, everyone here today is working on a project with Glenn, which is just, I feel like.
Yay!
Yeah.
Yes. So, Marlene is our communications director, and she does most all of the social media and she makes us look really good. I really appreciate that. And we're working on a Puff and Putt with Rick and Sis in Buchanan, my hometown, on May 22nd. We still have tickets for that. And of course, Mr. Hash Bash himself is welcoming us to the Hash Bash Cup. They're a part of our map. They're designating some proceeds back and really supporting us hot and heavy there.
And if you purchase a map, it comes with a day pass for the event, I believe, right?
It is cheaper to buy a map than to.
And
but maps are finite.
Adam's
so.
face as he realizes that. Oh no!
It's a single day event. It's a single day access. You can't go to the Hash Bash Cup for one day.
And for the record, we've already raised thousands of dollars that she doesn't know about. I mean, the reality is that expungements are needed, and it costs money.
Whew.
And there's nothing more important, in my opinion, to get behind. The industry's fucked. Yeah, we need to make some changes. Yeah, we need some upgrades here. Yeah. In the meantime, everybody's got a conviction.
A lot of people.
And it's
1 in 4.
It's destroyed people's lives. Just a simple conviction. Forget about assholes like me that are 8-time losers with the rap sheet like you wouldn't believe. But there's people with one marijuana conviction because they got caught smoking when they were a teenager, and it's ruined them. So I see Glenn as, I can't think of a more important group, and I'm part of one. I see Glenn as doing, I don't believe in God, but he's doing God's work, really. It's.
You know what you mean, anyway. That's okay.
That's right.
Right. They tried to help me. They can't. So all I can do is try to help other people through them. And that's why I reached out to Josie.
Right on. Adam saw the results of the fundraiser in Benton Harbor and was challenged to try to.
I was offended. The industry that came from caregivers, where
Oh my
God, motherfuckers had.
Adam texted me this. He said, "I'm personally offended."
They raised $47,000.
That's out of my phone. Out of people that I had just it was not. I was so impressed, and Adam was like, "Josie, I'm
These
so
people
personally."
spent millions of dollars. They spent millions of dollars on their storefronts. Forget about anything else. Forget about hiring consultants.
Yeah, but things
Forget
didn't
about
turn out
licenses.
necessarily as planned after that.
On their storefronts.
They also created business plans after watching a good episode of Cops, where they thought they were going to make, $30,000 off a pound of weed.
In the meantime, they should have raised a couple $100,000, and she shouldn't have to be doing this anymore.
Hey, that's from my diary, actually, but I do agree.
That's the reality, is that the industry, all of which had to give up, this is another thing that just hit me at lunch today. You had to give up your caregiver card to join the industry, right? Why didn't you go get a patient card?
Cultivation.
You don't have to give up your patient card. You just have to give up your caregiver card.
Only for certain job types.
Correct. Correct. And that was a large amount of people. And they should all have gotten patient cards. Yeah. I think it's important. I think the system we set up for patients and for people in need is important, even though it's a minute part of the game. or industry, whatever you call it.
It really is very, very small now.
Okay? But sick people shouldn't suffer. They
Right.
just shouldn't have to. Some people should suffer, but not sick people.
Let me tell you what. The hardest part for me in legalization is all the shitty weed that my friends are giving me. Like,
The hardest part.
I arrive everywhere looking
you had-
equally as crippled as what I did the day before, you know, and I haven't had medical grade marijuana in, like, you know, it's a rare occasion. So I'm just putting out a public thing in case anyone's like, Josie, I have really good weed. It's your right as a Michigander to, you know, share the wealth.
That's right.
So thank you for having us here, and thanks for having us at the Sensi party. We're so excited. You know, the last Mardi Gras event was incredible. I was so surprised. That's where I met Jessica from Copper House, and she's really taken on Glenn as her own project.
She's
And
awesome.
really been able to, you know, we've got so many connections there.
Yeah.
So who else will be around today, Jamie?
As far as like vendors,
Well, who?
Yeah. Throw out some.
well, so I think we're nearing about 600 registrations at this point.
Wow.
We keep climbing by the hour. And you know, I think you'll see a lot of familiar faces. That's what I love most about these events, because I feel like our events do bring out, you know, a lot of different types of folks, you know, and it really is about the community. That's what our events are about, is bringing people together and just really celebrating where we are and everyone around us. And so I suspect to see a lot of familiar faces, meet some new ones. I'm always down to meet new people. And so, and you know, it's going to be a little bit of a smaller event than last year. I think we're probably 100 or 200 below the count that we had last year, but it's still going to be a packed room, a packed courtyard, and plenty of celebrations. And
The industry's getting through some challenges, and everybody prioritizes like an event like this. So that shows up. But,
well, and we had at least double the vendors last year. That just tells you what a hit the industry has taken. And you know, and our event, like what the people that get tables at our events are the people that advertise in the magazine. So it's, you know, we look at it as a way for our readers in the community to meet some of the brands that we work with. And so that's what we try to stay focused on. We're looking at doing a licensed event in the fall, and it's likely going to serve as the CannaCon after party. So we'll be doing our next Sensi
is
night.
that Detroit? Detroit area?
It'll be Detroit probably. So yeah, it's going to be different. You know, I have decided not to do our Sensi nights in the warmer months because everybody has events in the summer, and you know, there's so much outdoor space for everybody to host events. And so I've kept our events in the cooler months because I want to support all the other events that'll be happening this summer, and being a part of those and not actually having to be the host.
Right.
You know, everybody on this call has done events before with Josie and Marlena, you know, with the different Glenn things. Of course, Adam with Hash Bash. Rick is, you know, kind of famous with his events so far. Jamie and I with MICBD, we did 12 different conferences. And of course, you know, all the stuff that you do. And it is really nice to attend someone else's trouble, right? I mean, this way you really could just sit back and go, wow, well, that's not my problem to deal with. But you know, you also want to try and help and give support to those people that are doing events, especially when they reach out to you for it. I mean, we all have a history, but we all sort of work together, right? I mean, this program right here is a perfect example of that, I think.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely correct. I mean, and it goes right back to the plant and how she brings community and togetherness. Again, different creeds, different genres, races, it doesn't matter. It bonds us together.
Different kinds of activities surrounding it.
Yeah, that little reel that Josie had the other day on Facebook about your mom telling you that what if those people are criminals? No shit, they're criminals. This is the whole program, right? This is what I'm working with. So it's beautiful.
criminal.
Right.
We all have to raise our hand to that.
Yeah.
Some of my best friends are criminals. Who are you kidding?
Mm-hmm.
Although,
Have
I
them
just-
call me for an expungement.
also,
They got to get caught first.
Don't be bragging. Don't be
Watch it,
bragging.
there's some snitches out there.
Yeah.
I'll just add
Yeah.
though that I experienced a stark improvement in some respects with law enforcement. I was pulled over yesterday,
Really?
and
you pulled over
yeah,
for?
I won't say why, but I got the lowdown from the police officer on his approach to when he comes across people smoking cannabis in the car.
You know how many times we've been on the phone with Jamie in a conference call and he's been like smoking weed and driving? And when we were in the My Legalized days, like David Rudoy is very like you can't even, he would be mad right now that we're talking about it, bringing it into existence. And he would be like, Jamie, are you smoking weed while driving? And Jamie would be like, no. And the window would be clearly open. And then Zoom came out and he just has no shame, like none.
Well, I only smoke in my car.
It does seem like a waste of time, like to just be driving and not smoking.
Yes, Cabbage
I
up
mean,
there.
right. I
So he just said, he goes, I pulled you over for, I was going down like a semi-private road at a time when you're not allowed to. So that's why I got pulled over.
Were you driving around blunt cruising, like smoking weed? Just for the pure purpose?
Just on my way home and took away that works sometimes, but did not
The
this
joint
time.
doesn't taste the same if you got to put it out.
You'll hillbilly back road kind of a thing. All right.
and so he just said that in his view, as long as somebody is not driving in a manner that makes him concerned, that he doesn't care.
Mm-hmm.
like
Just flat out just smoking right in the
And
car.
it would
Pretty
be nice.
enlightened.
It would
Like,
be nice
I've-
if these officers use their discretion for the
Mhm.
benefit of the
Yeah.
citizen here and there. You know.
things like driving down a road you shouldn't be driving down, that type of thing.
Was that what you were doing?
That was the problem. That's what he was worried about. So
Yeah, I've actually never really been caught smoking. I've been pulled over after smoking, so the car reeked, and but I've never actually been actively smoking, and I've always figured if I was smoking a joint and the cops were trying to pull me over, I'd dial 911, tell them who I was about to be pulled over, and as soon as I finish this joint, I'll happily pull over. But I know
Well, I would just swallow it.
I know.
It was an episode of Cops, I think.
I know I'm going to jail. I might as well enjoy the joint.
You know, I got we had smoked a bunch of weed, and I had stopped at a rest area and like taken a nap because I was tired. It's like 2 a.m. I spent a lot of time. I had a long day ahead of me of smoking weed the next day too, so I needed a nap. And so the cops woke me up. They were like, "Bitch, what are you doing here? You know, like you can't apparently park here or whatever." He was like, "Have you been smoking marijuana?" And I was like, "No." And I have like a joint in my hand because I was really tired, you know. And he was like, "I'm gonna need to do a sobriety test." So I opened the door, and he said, "Oh my God, what's wrong with you?" And I forgot for the moment that I was so offended. I was like, nothing. And I realized he was talking about my crutches. Like, why do I have crutches, right? But I was like, I don't know what's going on. Like, am I on fire? Did I burn something? You know? And he was like, I think we'll just give a sobriety test. Like, you can follow this flashlight. I don't think you can walk the line, which was probably true. But I was in a mode where I was like, well, you're not going to give me the opportunity.
what it actually demonstrates anyway, I don't know.
Greg,
Well, yeah, I mean, I always tell them I'm unstable on my feet, so sobriety test ain't gonna work for you.
That checks out really quick too. So
What's the update on the Hash Bash treasure map?
yes, so our maps are supposed to be out today. We are running a little behind on the map, but there's 10 cannabis gifts, 8 different dispensaries, provisioning centers. We have 2 smoke shops, Bongs and Thongs. Thank you, Mo. And then Wildside Smoke Shop as well. And we've got Vertex Coffee participating again this year. They have a hash bash themed coffee for the whole weekend that you can buy without the map. And all the proceeds will go back to the Great Lakes Expungement Network. We also teamed up with Peace, Love, and Little Donuts. They have over 32 varieties of donuts and, right on brand, right downtown. And every map comes with a special ticket to the Hash Bash Cup as well. And then there's 5 bonus stars. And if you complete the map or do your bonus stars, you get entered into a giveaway. So we're doing everything from a tour, a trip back to Ann Arbor, touring Winewood Organics, to a nifty glass piece. Somebody's been smoking weed, like I said. I don't know who. Anyways, a sick ass glass piece from Bongs and Thongs. Again, thank you to Mo. 4 different grand prizes to win. We have 750 maps available. You can buy them at any of the 8 locations. We'll take pre-sale tickets as soon as we can get them on the shelves, right? So we'll come back on and talk about where and when you can buy them. But they won't be available for pickup online. They'll buy them online and then pick them up at Arborside, which has 2 mystery gifts, by the way. It's a good place to start. And I will say this, when we did this, we started the pitch really early, like October. And I was just calling people like, hey, I can't do hash without hash bash. Or I can't do hash bash without hash, right? So there's so much fucking hash in this map. It's just so much. Like, I'm really excited about the value, and we have everything from infused pre-rolls with live resin, not infused with what? It's distillate or terpenes or something. It's live resin.
I think Winewood might have some actual hash.
Yes.
Yeah. And we have bubble hash and hash resin from Archive. And we're really excited about the people we partnered with this year and the variety of stuff we've been able to provide. And we're selling them for $40. So we really want this to be in the spirit of Hash Bash, where people are, all the gifts are without purchase. Free weed is the theme, right? And then it's affordable for everyday folks. So $40, over a $200 value. And you can get them online at sonsanddaughtersunited.org/hash bash treasure hunt. They're available there now, and then they'll be there for Gwen sometime at the end of the week at greatlakesexpungementnetwork.org/hash bash treasure hunt. We're so excited. And T-Dog did the art this year. Have you guys seen it?
For the treasure map, I did see it. Yes.
Oh my God.
It's good.
We are so proud. So,
Done yet.
when we went to, as soon as we got this idea last year, we knew we wanted to get T-Dog to do it, but we just didn't have time. We couldn't afford him. It was like in our 5-year plan. And so this year we went to him, and he's just so generous and so creative and on point. And me and Marlena had, all of 2 meetings with him, and he just created this incredible piece. And it really feels like it's part. And I think the best part of the map is that it's being supported by all areas of Hash Bash, right? Like the Diag and Monroe Street there, and of course Adam at the Wyndham. And we were very selective. There was a lot of people that wanted on the map, but we were selective about who we chose, and then also about what brands we were representing. So we're super proud about that. And we'll have tickets for sale today at Sensi Night for the Sneaker Ball.
Yeah.
Talk about the sneaker
Throw
ball.
out the sneaker ball stuff.
Yeah.
Ooh, I'm throwing another banger, y'all. I'm telling you what, I'm throwing a banger. I'm ready. So it's my first licensed event, and Ryan tells me that there's more to throw an event than just showing up and smoking weed. Just bogus, because I do that very well. So we want to do an event where we can invite people, everyday public. It does become a who's who to get to these events, right? You just have to know that they're going on. It's hard to advertise. It all probably goes back to the way that cannabis is treated in general. But us as a nonprofit, we thought that this is a good opportunity to involve also people on the east side of the state. So we're so excited to work with the Hotbox Social to host this event. It's March 18th, the day after St. Patrick's Day. It's a Saturday. It is a formal event. You wear your kicks. We're doing a series of door prizes. There'll be a contest. a full dinner, of course. If there's anything that your girl does right, it's food and weed. So you can count on me for that.
That's true.
Tickets are expensive but reflective of the venue. It can only fit like 200 people in there. We sold out of standard tickets very quickly. The ability to ensure these events and to host them is it's difficult, and I think that that's something that people start to experience. I think we've all experienced when we try to get into the license market or do something. It's just a hard upfront cost.
Yeah,
So
no pressure. I did ask Craig earlier if they wanted to sponsor the event. Waiting on a reply. So it's okay. If it's
you know what? Now's the time. It's a good time to do it.
It's also in good with Nature's Remedy, which we thought would be a good.
Out of
sponsor
Ferndale,
too.
they do all the deliveries for Get High Hello. And Get High Hello has been so good to us and so supportive from the beginning. Before they had a box, and it was just an idea. They donated $1,000 and they were like, we want to give every month to a nonprofit. We don't really know where to start, but we want to get started here. This is our idea. I think it's going to work. I'm so proud of that team. And so they just launched in Detroit with Nature's Remedy. Which, in order to do stuff like that, you have to understand the culture and the consumer. And we're just so proud to be aligned with, that was really crazy. A number of people that wanted to do the events that have done them previously. And so what we wanted to do is include people that we really didn't know or that were outside of our network or, folks outside of the West Side, Best Side crew that we've created. And the response has been really great. I mean, there's nothing controversial about expungements, and there's nothing controversial about who should pay for them, right? And here in Michigan, we have this maybe a legal obligation with social equity. When we work in cannabis, even as employees, right, there's a moral obligation to give back in whatever way that might mean. And so if that is giving your time, if that's donating money, however you see yourself making an impact on people who are either currently or firmly incarcerated for cannabis, I think that is what we're doing best at Glen, right? So if you want to get involved, please visit us at GreatLakesExpungementNetwork.org. You can also register for expungement there. My girl Blanca will get back with you within 24 hours. We're really proud to be a part of the Jazz Cabbage Cafe family. Thank you guys for supporting us. Thanks for taking us in. Come to my sneaker ball.
Anthony's right in Lansing.
What are you going to wear?
Anthony, you easily could come over to this Lansing event because you were in Lansing.
He's coming.
All right.
Saying.
Or so he says.
Yeah.
I will say the guys at Earl King got some sick ass sneakers. I just saw them today and I was like, damn, those might be the best sneakers ever. And then Kyle at Lighten Up, he's got personalized sneakers. And I was like, shit, I need to go buy different sneakers. I'm not showing up for my own party in the right way, Anyways, the thing is, we should get Great Lakes Expungement Network sneakers. I'm saying.
Yeah.
What would they look like? What would your design be for Great Lakes Expungement Network sneakers, huh?
It would say "fuck the system," which is also one of our very exclusive shirts you can get at Hash Bash. So straight to the
nose. Yeah.
It's actually, I tried to get it to be our mission statement, and it was like a turn off for the federal government and shit. So now it's a little different. It's committed to expunging records across Michigan. But no. I also was playing with yeehaw, fuck the law. Michigan. They also responded like that. It was not taken seriously. So if you have any marketing ideas, you want to join our marketing and events team, you can also email me at josie@theredemptionfoundation.org. Thank you guys for having us on.
When you come into the building here?
Well, you see, I do have to smoke a little bit more weed, and I have to do a little bit more things. But I'm leaving here at 5 o'clock.
You can't just drive over there.
I can't just drive there. I need to smoke.
The recommended daily allowance. Yeah, so she's got to catch up.
It's just, if I'm not smoking the weed, how will people know that I'm cool and relatable?
Good point.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? They might think I'm a cop or something.
700 expungements, I think, would be probably the first clue I'd look at.
I do want to help people with their expungements. Rick went through our expungement program. There's so many Ricks, but Rick Ansis went through our expungement program, and he's been so committed to giving back and really joining our team and our mission to not only expunge records, but create services for current and former cannabis prisoners and their families. So we're really excited. Rick, how long have you been doing your puff and putts?
Puff and Putt was a thought last year for a spring event because my Hazy Holes was doing so well in the fall. I threw it out there to try a spring event. It went really well, and here we are in our second one with a really great cause behind it. So I'm excited.
And we're doing it in Buchanan on the 22nd.
Orchard Hills.
Yes, Orchard Hills. And there's going to be
Which
dinner.
is a private course, which is fun for the golfers because often without a membership, you're obviously never going to play that course. So kind of unique opportunity.
Also, if you come to any of these events and you can outsmoke my mom, I'll give you $20 and a bag of weed.
Awesome.
She gets it done.
Maybe $40, you know?
Is she hanging with you guys today, or is she back home?
No, she's keeping down the fort, probably smoking my weed and the neighbor's weed.
I wouldn't embarrass your mom like that.
Yeah, you're right. She's just smoking my weed. She knows it's good.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm saying I wouldn't outsmoking her. I wouldn't.
You wouldn't outsmoke her. I know you'd be trying. Like I'm saying, like $100 if you can make her go to sleep. Like if you can just, and edibles count, right? Whatever you want, whatever you can get, like 20 minutes.
Offering your mom up for random dosing from anybody, right? God.
Listen,
That's
the cannabis
love.
days were crazy. You know, in the beginning in 2009, people would just come up to my mom and like they had seen something where somebody had like taken the right amount of marijuana and just, I don't know, walked or something. Jesus weed, I would call it. And they would just give her so much weed. And it never worked, by the way. So if you're still looking to heal Brenda, you can send her, I'll give you her, you know, her P.O. box.
You can't slide into her DMs. You got to slide into her PO box. That's all.
I'm gonna send a letter. You know, I don't know who raised you, but Brenda raised me.
Yep.
She's hard to impress, you know. And cannabis, mostly. That's about it.
Well, it's a good team. A lot of good teams floating around now. You know, and really, it's been fun creating good events, good memories for people, talking about the news every week, having a podcast, being able to really highlight some of the positives. Because certainly if we let other people tell our story, they're not going to tell all the stories about the positives.
Well,
Go ahead, Adam.
I didn't mean to interrupt you. Really, this is the type of thing that doesn't get talked about publicly. This is the thing, and I've said it on this show and others. I really want to throw a set where we're all sitting in a room getting high, and the legislators get to sit up and watch us. They must think there's like some gladiator thing or that we're gonna rape and pillage if we get high, because that's how you feel because of the way they've treated us. Now it's really about attitude change, and each time we can move the ball forward a little farther, we run into like cops like Jamie talked to. You know, I mean, I still tell you every cop I meet the same thing. You can tell me that there are good cops. I'm sure there are great human beings, good people who have the job of police officer. But you tell me how many times he wrote a fellow officer's name in a report for violating the law or the rules. They back each other up. There are good cops. We know that. But they back each other up. They got each other's back. And we wouldn't want it any other way. But that's still something we have to deal with as cannabis consumers.
I still get in my mind an idea that we would have Brenda Scoggin in the role of Patrick Mahomes in the smoking weed Super Bowl, right? Surrounded by lawmakers from all the different states, right? And they have their own California, Michigan.
She would be the rep for Michigan. She drives me nuts, man.
Trading cards with her name on them and stuff like that. You know,
smoking weed.
Exactly.
The whole resume.
Yep, massive capability. You know, loves dad hits, right? You know, little factoids on the back. You know, that's
I like it.
that might be a couple years down the road, but let's put that on the list of life goals then. Craig Aronoff, you're an attorney. You know what Adam's talking about. Sometimes it's tough to get cops to say another cop has been doing things poorly.
Absolutely. You know, I focus my area mostly on the business side, but we do see that quite a bit. You know, the protecting themselves, protecting their peers, and we see it in our own businesses. I mean, how often do we see in licensed facilities, just bringing into cannabis even, where somebody sees their own peer doing something wrong that could affect licenses? They had a suspension today again. So I don't know if you guys covered that yet, but you know, again, at what point are we trying to just do right? And I think that cops need to do it, and generally in all areas of society, we should be focused in the same way.
Happy to read in the Free Press about the 52nd District Court in Oakland County, where they have two people that are now suing them because they were whistleblowers. They came forward with problems in their workplace, and they were, you know, punished for it.
That
They
sounds
were treated
about right.
poorly. Yeah, I mean,
Judge stymied them for doing it.
Exactly. So, you know, you get someone to complain to Human Resources and someone to complain directly to the judge that was in charge. And because of that, they got consequences. And you're not supposed to do that to people under the Whistleblower Protection Act. And you'd think the courts would know about that. So, I mean, your point about everybody in every situation is, you know, sometimes it's difficult to say boo about your neighbor. That's the truth.
It is. And, you know, and licensees spend a lot of money on their licenses. These facilities have major investments, and, you know, they expect their management to watch their people and their people to do right and have jobs and careers. And sometimes things go sideways, and you just need to be able to address it early and deal with it. But, you know, there could be a bad apple in there you didn't know about, and it's best for everyone to kind of bring that early. Or something like what happened today could happen, where you get a summary suspension.
Well, we're dealing with multitudes of city councils, townships, municipalities, all with their own points of views, prerogatives, and agendas, and that really diversifies.
Sure does. You know, and we you were mentioning the, you know, the legislature's looking, and I always viewed it as the zombie apocalypse. You know, that they keep expecting to happen that hasn't happened, and we have. You know, now when we talk to these communities, they can't say, well, what will it be? We have track record all over the state of successful community involvement, successful engagement, successful, you know, corporate citizens to those communities. And, you know, and they still think they're the first, or they're breaking ice. It's really remarkable after all this time that, you know, they feel that will be the case.
Well, and it was Fuego.
The other thing is
something else.
The other thing is that there's no punishment for the bureaucrat who either gives out false information or poor information. My wife actually called Laura today to talk to the CRA.
And you want to add Frigo? Okay.
For her
Jamie's
job.
taking off. See you, Jamie.
Gotta go back to work.
Bye.
Or do a great event,
Yeah.
Jamie.
Thank you.
Work. Okay.
My wife actually
Yeah,
called today to ask a question and told that they didn't know the answer. And the question was, can somebody sell CBD hemp flower at a farmer's market? And Laura said to the CRA individual, said that they didn't know and couldn't answer that question. Now, at this point in the game, I would expect more from our bureaucrats than that.
There's no doubt on the CBD seed side, and certainly on the hemp bill, and you know, Michigan's version of our hemp rules that they brought into the CRA. There is a lot of gray area and a lot of unknowns. We do know you need to at least register if you're growing plants. You need to register if you're processing it and producing it, and then what you do with it after that is sort of the wild card.
Yeah, there's some stuff that the DEA said that was kind of strange.
Well,
you know,
they were
but,
looking at a specific compound though, You're
A
talking
couple,
about the
a couple, but they were,
Yeah, THCO,
but
which
that's
is-
still kind of contrary to the only court ruling that actually addressed it. They got pretty specific, like any derivative isolate. It went pretty far of
Exactly.
hemp.
Now
Is
we're,
okay.
now we're talking about what an
What-
isolate is versus.
Yeah, but I know that Josie only has like a few more minutes left, so I just wanted to make sure that you can
It's like 3 joints. a few
sum,
minutes
yeah,
to
yeah,
go,
sum some
Right.
things up or get some stuff in, then we can kind of resume this conversation. I wanted to get into it a little bit more, but I don't want to.
Hi, Jen.
Hi, Josie.
I'm so glad to be
Jim
here.
Salinas joined us too.
Thanks for having us on. We are, our GED program at the Redemption Foundation is just now seeing testing. And so we're seeing our first graduates of that program.
Oh, wow.
I'm excited.
Yeah, we talked about that a few months
And the program isn't just for people with cannabis convictions, but also for their family members as well. And so we want to give second chances or a chance to redemption to all aspects of everywhere that cannabis prohibition touches, right? So we're so excited to be a part of it, and we're working out with Mod Roots on that. I know Jen was on the show, and she's the shit. So I'm so grateful. I know a lot of our events in terms of fundraisers have been expensive or out of hand for like everyday folks. So please buy a treasure map if you want to support the network and get the most out of it. And so maps are $40. You can get them at sonsanddaughtersunited.org/#treasure map. All 100% of the proceeds go to expunging records here in Michigan. And just a reminder that Great Lakes Expungement Network is Michigan's only fee-free full-service expungement program. And that means we're the only ones that are filing and paying all the fees associated with it. And we're seeing 5 to 7 applications a day. Prison hasn't rehabilitated anybody. Nobody has went to jail one time. Spending an average of $13.50 per client. And the math is just, not method. So feel free to, if you need an expungement, get on greatlakesexpungementnetwork.org. If you're looking to go to the sneaker ball, greatlakesexpungementnetwork.org/sneaker ball. Also, please sign up for a puff and putt. There is a lot of, it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to be smoking a lot of weed. Brenda's contest will be at all of these places.
Where
So
people go for puff and putt.
catch us at Hash Bash, catch us, maps I didn't mention, but maps are actually redeemable from March 29th until April 3rd. Right, Marlena? So the Wednesday before until the Monday after. So you have the opportunity to do the hunt on days that are not busy. We would still, we are so grateful to have such a variety this year, both in products and in brands. So yeah, catch us at the Sensi event. We've got sneaker ball tickets available. I still am looking for some sponsors in or around Detroit. So if you know anybody, hit me up. I love you guys. Thanks for having us on.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Marlena. See you guys in a little
See you
while.
guys here.
Bye.
Yeah, so that was the DEA's statement and how they view it.
Yeah.
Because they're not naturally occurring, it'll come directly from hemp. They're synthetic or whatever. But that's
I question us in the industry as well. So breaking all these components down again without, where's the science in it? Is it validated science? Are we experimenting with something?
yeah, we're kind of experimenting with
Every
something.
novel cannabinoid really doesn't have the body of research behind
Yeah.
it that you would need if you were to put it into a foodstuff or have it for sale regularly.
Right.
Yeah.
We are sort of experimenting with cannabis plant, and unfortunately, that's where the best discoveries come from.
Mhm.
Imagine Rick Simpson; he was timid about experimenting.
Right.
Where we would
Wouldn't
be
have
now.
it. Yeah, it's absolutely.
What was that, Adam?
About it.
I was just going to point out that much of the research has been done, and it's sitting in Israel, and that's why their marijuana culture is much different than ours. You're not going to tell me that a country takes a nursing home, fills it up with old people smoking weed, and doesn't study it. They did nothing but study these people. They've been doing the studies. They know what's going on. The problem is the United States government still doesn't want to accept the fact that this stuff isn't the horrible Schedule 1 product that they said it was. That's where I still think that's our biggest. We're now
Well, some people don't want to let go of some of the control that comes with keeping it.
right. We're
Yeah.
now at one of these plateaus at the very top of Everest, where we've almost made it, and they don't want to give it up. This is going to be the hardest part of the climb, is this last little bit, but it's not going to, I'm telling you, we're one generation of die-off before most of the people look around and go, huh? Why is that law like that? That makes no sense. Weed was illegal once? My grandchildren are going to laugh about that. I mean, can you imagine that my grandchildren are going to laugh that weed was illegal and that I used to get up on the steps of a library in front of 20,000 people and scream and holler for an hour? I mean, that's ridiculous.
We talk about the old days, right?
People still in jail for a small amount of cannabis, very minor cannabis activity right now.
Well,
No.
You look at Willie Nelson is turning 90 this year, and he's one of the biggest smokers out there. I don't know how that doesn't show people that it's the efficacy of the plant itself. So,
well, listen, there's you have to understand, this history doesn't just go back to when people think it does. It goes back to when it actually goes back to, and the Chinese have 8,000-year-old pot.
He would have been a lot more talented and live a lot longer had he not smoked cannabis.
That's right.
Who? Willie?
Really.
Right. Yeah, right.
We're at the Causeway Hotel, which is the site of a Mardi Gras kind of industry networking event, and it gets started at 6 in about an hour. So we did this last year or the year before, the broadcast from here, and some people from the event have come through, including Jamie. Somebody asked where we are, so it's my brother Steve, actually. So I was letting him know what's going on.
It's a big event. Come on.
And yeah, Craig, you're vendoring here. You are an attorney. You do a lot of business stuff, a lot of companies. You're available for that stuff, but you're also in the industry yourself too, with coming out with some products. That's kind of what you're here for tonight, right?
Yeah, thank you. No, so Aronoff Law does represent a number of licensees up and down the vertical and throughout Michigan. But 2 years ago, I partnered with a friend of mine, along with a couple of others, to launch basically it's an ingredient, and it's called Dehydrate, and it's the Dehydracheck process. We were talking about patents and food and everything, and so this process has 28 global patents related to the conversion of oils into absorbable powder, bioavailable powder. And so the patent holder is actually trading on the NASDAQ and unloaded their cannabis rights, and we happen to get the use of it. So it's being used in NSAIDs and antivirals and all sorts of medications. But the oils that are used are for not Schedule 1, we'll say. So that's where we come in with the THC versions. So we have here today, we'll have at our table some powder, some chocolate, a hot chocolate mix. We actually have K-cups with coffee that'll be brewed, and people can get
so this is like similar to a distillate or different?
So what it does, it takes the distillate and converts it to a bioavailable powder. So we can actually effectively attach it to a sugar molecule.
Okay.
It's not a nano where it's being pounded into thinking it's small. This is actually going through a molecular process that binds it to the sugar, and what your body thinks is it's actually sugar.
Wow.
So we've developed underneath it now a number of different gummies, some of them that have CBD, some that have vitamin C, some of them that have melatonin for sleep, and then mix in some other, vitamin C and whatnot to kind of get the effect we're looking for.
Do they all bind the same, like CBG, CBN?
They do.
All the same?
Yeah, so the parent company, Lexario Bioscience, that owns the rights to the patent, they actually have a hypertension pill made out of CBD that is proving to be 1,900 times better than the regular medicines that are out there.
Wow.
And that's their studies. It's public. It's on their...
Well, one thing about CBD is when it enters your body alone, it's only good for 20 minutes or so, 40 minutes at best. So if you have other components binding and holding it there.
That's right.
Yeah.
And they use long chain, triglyceride way to get around your liver, and and the science of it is proving itself to allow these molecules to find where they need to be to do the best in your body. Wow. CBD kind of finds where your source is, where the pain is, right, or whatever the inflammation is. So they're finding that to be a good way to cause your heart to work better and drop your hypertension, for instance.
You know, the gummies that have extra CBN for help with sleep, similar to what you described with the melatonin, seem to be very popular too. So
yeah, we played with that one. We actually have CBN and then chamomile in ours. So,
oh well,
yeah. Nice. So we were kind of using, you know, things that people are used to already, and the process actually pulls the taste out of the oil as well. So
nice.
We have the ability to take an RSO, for instance, and make it actually an enjoyable experience.
Nice.
Most people know.
The oil you start with, though, is distillate?
It's any kind of oils. So we could use an RSO, for instance, or a full spectrum CBD, and put it into a flavor that actually hides it and makes
this is just the product that they have available at the moment, but they can do a lot of different things with this technology or this new patented
so our product
process.
that's coming out is called High Tech. It's a gummy line that we'll see in the market here. There's a local cocoa is also another hot chocolate that we
that's
have.
here tonight.
That's here tonight.
I'll be checking that out.
Yeah, great.
I actually, my favorite use of it, believe it or not, is to put it in coffee as dry powder.
I believe it.
And you have a
Poor man's mocha.
Local cocoa. It's good.
Local cocoa.
Yeah, it's a very good way to finish your coffee quick because it's tasty. And our flavor profile team's done a great job of, you know, introducing all organic and, you know, our it's vegan, gluten-free products that we use for our gummies.
That's really hard to source right now. I mean, to find
it's been a
things
challenge.
like that.
Yeah, the supply chain has been really interesting as we've kind of been playing in that space and trying to find the right kind of sugars to use and everything. You know, that it's really eye-opening to see how the supply chain and where
you got to go to get it.
Where you got to go. Yeah, we have a honey powder, and we've had to source it from a number of different regions around the world to find the right one that doesn't have stems and sticks and other crap in it. To be honest, it's quite remarkable what comes in on these pallets. But you know, our team has done a wonderful job of finding good, you know, reliable sourcing, and we have that in the CBD side, you know, and all the miners that we can do separately with one another, and then bring them in a harmonious way or an ensemble way. So, you know, Jamie likes to use that phrase. So
there we have a cool little story.
Visualize, you know, what they're doing.
We had just real quick. We had Professor Grinstein before he passed away come on planting green trees. Rick and I were on there, and I was producing it. He was regularly a co-host, and he brought up the whole ensemble thing. Rick then subsequently wrote like a little piece about it, and that got published in High Times magazine. And so we kind of like tried to perpetuate that concept pretty heavily.
You know, and it's in lieu of an entourage, right? So that actually makes more sense because they're all working in harmony together towards the goal.
An entourage is one person leading with everyone follow, which is how people used to view THC as the most important molecule, and everything else is sort of secondary. But the ensemble recognizes the equality of all the different cannabinoids.
Working synergistically to get the overall.
Right.
Exactly. You can't have a symphony if you don't have woodwinds. So.
How much vitamin C are in the products?
I can get you the exact number. I don't have the specific amount, but
I'll tell you after I sample it.
Yeah, we have samples over at our table, so I don't have the ingredient breakdown of the exact amount that we put in. But like our Regen one has THC, CBD, vitamin C, and elderberry in it. And again, it's an orange blossomy taste, so it's very flavorful.
Is elderberry known to also have its own set of?
It has, you know, it's used for a lot of cold medicines now. They're using it towards zinc and elderberry. You'll see a lot of gum drops that are sold at pharmacies with those. Obviously, it's leaving out what we think would be the best source of bringing that into your body, which of course would be the CBD chain and THC underneath it as part of that ensemble.
Well, and old medicine, right? So a lot of this is old medicine that we're walking back to. So coming back to a organically derivative honey from wildflower or a specific thing, coming back to a what some people call echinacea is the cone flower that's in most of your gardens and yards. So coming back to those natural things, mixing it with this natural component of THC, CBD, terpene profiles. It again, the entourage gets even broader then, you know.
Well, you know, people are. It's interesting.
Or the
because
ensemble is. We just spent a
Ensemble,
long
yes.
time talking
Right,
about
right,
it.
right.
Come on.
Just educating on the idea of what essential oils are. And people are used to seeing aloe, they're used to seeing lavender, they're used to seeing, you know, peppermint and all these other. What do they think this oil comes from? It's just derived from the plant, exactly the same processes. And it happens to be one that can grow anywhere around the world, as we know.
What's
in
funny
different
is I don't-
environments, and it's healthy.
I don't see anybody being prosecuted or burned at the stake for witchcraft lately. So I'm really excited about that because
That
that's
is a
essentially
positive,
what,
right.
what it was as well.
Right.
Back in the 1700s, you know,
Well, to be
people
an
trying to
herbalist,
see-
to be an herbalist was associated with all those
Mhm.
negativities.
Well-
because they wanted you to adopt a modern scientific approach as opposed to a more you know, rural
Holistic.
kind of an origins type based thing. I think almost all cultures, when you get down to their basic, believed in the power of plants to heal them, and echinacea or cornflower, all of the different things that we see. Those are you know, local remedies that just got picked up by somebody who does pharma. You know, for a lot of us, this is, you know, they used to go to the rainforest just to look for new medicines because they'd find some brand new plant and it would have all these wonderful benefits. Well, some of the old plants also have benefits that we forgot about intentionally.
Right.
Come across a new fungus or a mushroom, which, you know, Jim works a lot on, of
Mhm.
course, and eugenics and everything too, right? And
Yeah.
so, Lord knows what they're going to find when they really dig in. But we know what we have with this plant. We know what we can do with it, and you know, as Rick, as you said earlier, it's understudied. Although there's 25,000 articles on it at the NIH, if you really want to dig in. And every community we talked to along the way have said, we don't know, we have to research. Well, go look.
Yeah, right.
Researching starts with a quick Google search, and then it'll take you about 12 years to read it all. But nonetheless, we haven't put it into mainstream science, and I think that's really, you know, where we're headed. And hopefully with data, and hopefully with, you know, I think what we've seen in Michigan is very recreational focused. There's a lot of medicinal focus outside of Michigan. I think we've kind of pushed away from it, unfortunately, because there's still a lot of great technologies that are out there, and you know, innovation that needs to come into this space. And that's where we felt Dehydrate was a good spot to be, because we can microdose, we can give specific indications, we can target what we're doing the way pharmaceuticals do, and then also add, you know, does it get you high? Well, the other one can. This one is designed to maybe not get you high, but make you functional and make you not feel your arthritic pain that day. And has just enough in there where you're not inebriated, but you'll test positive.
Yeah. And that's really
and that's a big
it's
difference.
a vital part of what caregivers do, trying to figure that out for their patients. And
Absolutely.
then you guys now have a company and a process that can get us there, that people can go to.
It started with the
And-
caregivers. It started with, you know, what oils.
The
are
very
working
sensitive
best,
people,
and-
the people that need kind of expensive, like, you know, like Rick Simpson type cannabis treatments, that kind of stuff, you have to have the caregiver system to functionally
Right.
do that
Right.
kind of stuff.
I am interested in knowing if the process can be used in a macro version. I mean, is this something that can be used to get higher?
So as far as our process, it actually, what it does is, because it's bioavailable and it comes in, it treats your body like sugar. So if you have a Snickers bar when you're hangry, and all those commercials that we see, it actually, the way of sugar would react will react to you the same way. So you get your consistency and then you get predictability with it. But it reaches your peak high almost immediately. Whenever you reach your high, it's not lingering in your liver, coming out through an oil-based process that's being filtered. And sometimes you take it, it takes 40 minutes to hit you, and you hit a level 6. The next time it takes an hour and you hit 10, and it offloads in 6 hours or 4. Ours is real consistent with that. But we also made it what we call a now and later, which adds a distillate base behind it. So you get a high that's up there, and it will be shorter on our version, but it is extended with the distillate. So your body has time to absorb it underneath it. So you reach your high using our fast acting component, and then normal distillate will kick in and go through your full. And, you know,
Medicinally, I just hear healing is all I hear right there. Yeah, it sounds like a really great product.
So this is just
Yeah.
getting started, but do you know of any retail places that do have it yet, or that are going to have it?
Yeah, we're gonna. I want to be hesitant to say exactly where, because we're still working on the sales side of it. Our packaging was all approved by the state of Michigan. Our passed all the testing. Our sales team is inside trying to, you know, make deals with a number of different groups. So what I would say is check back with us at Dehydrate MI .com, and we'll be able to provide more information about where we're coming into. But we're excited to reach the market with it and bring another technology that's been underused in our space.
Well, I'll definitely link you up with some West Side people.
I know you got to go too, Rick. So anything else you want to like wrap up with or anything, feel free to.
Yeah, just like Josie said, get a hold of us as far as Puff and Putt. You can get a hold of me on Mr. Fungi 420 on Instagram, or Rick Anstis on Facebook, or the Puff and Putt page on Facebook. So, yep, come join that. We got 98 spots for golfers and 18 available, about 14 available whole sponsorships now. So,
What's the date? What's the date of the event?
that is May 22nd, and it'll be in Buchanan, Michigan.
Sweet.
Extreme Southwest Michigan.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep, down yonder. So, thanks, guys.
All
In
right, thanks a lot, Rick.
Guys.
Are you taking up to
No, I can stay.
Please do. Yeah.
Okay.
Stick around. Then it would just be Rick and myself, and it'll be obviously uninformed, boring conversation.
Well, let's talk about the suspension today, because it was news to me, and I read it on my phone while we were doing the show here. And in one point, the TAS employees are on camera actually pulling product out of their own personal cars and taking it inside the facility. Craig, that's a pretty bold violation, right?
Awesome.
Wow.
Hey, Craig, what's the contact for your product again?
Dehydrate, DEHRHY, DR8, the number 8, MI.com.
Oh, I wondered how. Okay.
Yep.
So we got some people with interest already, and
So it's, put it on the camera right there. Dehydrate. There you go. And then I can actually put the scan code on there too.
I probably did not do that right. Don't look at this.
Well,
I have to
we'll
edit
get
this.
you more information too, so you can add it to your links after as well.
Fantastic.
Going back to the suspension. So first, let's think in terms of benefit of the doubt, right? Because number one, the idea that they can summarily suspend anybody without due process is very frustrating to all of us. But at some point, we needed to have this enforcement. We knew there was a lot of out-of-state product coming in. We knew people were gaming the system on metrics.
Worry less about stuff outside of the commercial system and the stuff that's happening. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's time for, instead of just building the market, they need to protect the market they build. And so I think what we've seen from Director Hanna is exactly that. When I mentioned the benefit of the doubt, I know that some of these facilities are bringing in other ingredients that might not be deemed hot. They might not be THC. So if they have things on camera, is it possible they misconstrued it? It's definitely possible. But when they look at tags inside and they see what they've wrote, at least in what we've seen so far, and obviously the facts will dictate the day, no facility should have a gram of unregistered marijuana, period, and stop.
They tapped into a little trend of that, it seems like.
Well, I think we've been pushing for that for last year. I mean, we've all known about it. We've heard it through the wind, but we haven't seen any enforcement. Our prior director was more focused on building our market rather than defending it. And I think what we've seen from Director Hanna is he's going to go back and defend it now.
Good. Ed, you're trying hard to get in. Good.
I don't know if it's showing up. The dehydrate mi.com.
Uh-oh. Did I say it wrong?
It's not. I'm typing in exactly what's going across the screen.
Give me one moment, Jim. Thank you for correcting me. It might just be dehydrate.com. Yep, take the MI out. Dehydrate.com.
Bam.
All right.
Second edit. We'll get it though.
Yes, and it'll talk about our technology, and we'll also have a product locator page that'll be live as we get our product out to market.
Adam, go ahead.
There you go. That's the right one. Thank you.
We had kind of touched on it a little bit earlier when we were talking about licensing. I don't understand how anybody at any level in any of these corporations would risk losing their license over. I'm not even talking about guys walking in with duffel bags from their car that then can be seen inside on cameras unloading those duffel bags. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, how do you turn in your paperwork late? how do you not make sure you're 2-3 times? How do you not make sure?
I can answer one of that most times. I know.
But hold on, just 1 second, Jimmy. How do you not make sure that the information you turn in is accurate, that nobody made errors? Now, it can be worth it sometimes to turn in your report late. We've all filed our taxes late. I don't begrudge a guy, and I think it's silly that the state hands out a $10,000 fine because the company didn't file a piece of paper.
Yeah, that's what I was going to mention. That third parties sometimes file late. You know,
some of that stuff makes no sense. But there isn't just one company out there with guys with duffel bags walking from their personal vehicles into the back of a dispensary and then leaving without those bags in hand. I mean, these aren't one-offs. This is nothing new. We all know this has been going on, and it just seems
weird,
like the lack of interest by the state is shocking to me.
Well, it's coming back around though, because they're trying to build up funds. That's one of the reasons why the max fine is in place and stuff like that.
They actually mentioned 23 complaints too and allegations in that.
Against the processor's license.
Yeah,
yes.
so I mean, they were tipped on this by a number of different things. So these guys weren't the one-off as much as they were the, hey, we got away with it once, let's keep doing, wash, rinse, repeating until we get caught. And the fact that anyone would risk their licenses on it is absurd. On the annual financial statements, I have empathy with that because I have clients that hired accountants that gave account everything they were supposed to do, and all they had to do, and I got this confirmed with the state, and I'll put it out publicly. If they filed a blank annual financial statement, but filed it timely, there's no fine. You get no.
And the correct state and the correct form. Because that was one of the issues that we had too, is the incorrect form, but it was on time, so it was as if it wasn't on time.
No, right. You can't do it yourself, so you can only hire somebody else and hope they do it timely. But if they just simply filed it blank, like a blank tax return almost, so it's the same thing, and then you fix it with the state under deficiency notices that have only follow-up. There's no fine, there's no penalty, there's no formal complaint because you actually met the rule.
That does kind of come in handy though sometimes.
What's that?
I just want to say real quick though.
They should do it. In fact, I would tell my clients now, if they engage a CPA for this, they mandate it has to be filed timely,
right,
or they eat the penalty.
And on the right form again. So that's why Danielle's name kept up here for a little bit. It's her birthday today.
Oh,
so say happy birthday to Danielle.
Stone
Depot,
and so many other things.
Yeah.
No, but that's, annual financial statements, it's a bookkeeping thing. There's no public health risk there. What you're really doing is slapping someone on the wrist for turning in their homework late. And I understand the need to make sure that there's still guidelines so that things are done in a proper time period. But when we're talking about bringing in packages from someone's personal vehicle to a building, and according to the CRA's report, having an unapproved warehouse with no cameras in it where they were storing cannabis and cannabis products, those are things that there's such a big violation.
They make such a big deal about having to have that stuff covered at all times.
We talked about public health violation and public health risk. So if they feel like this particular entity is producing cannabis that might be at risk to public health, they have the ability to just say stop, suspend them until we can verify that they're doing things correctly. And that should be used very judiciously. But in this instance, I mean, if everything they allege is true, kind of was for,
Yeah, I mean, again, I know all the licensees that are following the rules and that are incurring their costs to do so, and they're barely making their margins, and they're
very frustrated with the people flaunting the system.
Yeah, absolutely, and what it's done is it's actually driven it's a push to the bottom in pricing because they get the ability to go out there and sell things at pennies on the dollar against people that are licensed that need that dollar to break even and pay their bills. So hopefully this helps provide that balance in our marketplace, and certainly shuns those that have been also messing and screwing around with the system too from doing it again. The other part that's noticeable is a lot of these enforcement actions are a little bit dated. I know this one, we don't know all the dates and facts yet, but even the one that they had a few months ago, the first one from the Detroit, that was from the summer before.
The fine that we just got was several months in, and it was more than what the typical was back at the time when they were doing it.
It seems like they need to clear out the pool of ticky-tack BS informal complaints and get to some kind of ticketing system. You ran the red light,
Well-
here's your ticket, move on. You don't lose your license.
But everybody gets the same penalty for the same infraction,
Totally.
and I don't think that's happening.
You know what to expect.
Yeah, no, and I think that they're still kind of coming up with a value for the fine.
Well, they maxed it. That's what they decided to do. Then they're trying to raise funds to do this extra enforcement and other programs and stuff.
Well, they start their
But-
reference lab.
Right.
This type of enforcement is almost unheard of from the state. They
What's that, Adam? I can't hear you.
This type of enforcement is almost unheard of from the state. They don't treat alcohol like this. Most bars get 3 good violations before they lose their license. And when I say good violations, I mean,
But if at the brewery there was a problem, right? I mean, if there were boots floating in the beer, right, they would probably say you can't sell that beer.
They
by the way, we're holding,
and they
right?
suspended and
Yeah.
fined. I don't think has anybody been revoked. Yeah.
Not yet. I mean, again, they're summarily suspended. It's indefinite. They got to go to court. They got to have their hearings.
Probably make them meet all these different conditions and let them keep operating. My guess is at least once.
I
don't
hope
know.
they don't. I hope when you create some of these problems like this, some of these violations, I don't think you can just immediately give someone back that license when they've lost the trust now.
I think so too. There,
But they've been doing that kind of shit. Go ahead, Jim. I'm sorry.
Where's the flour from? I mean, if it's coming out of people's cars, and it's being stored in a warehouse, there's no line of that seed to sale that the state has put in place to follow. So
let them admit the violation. I agree with you what Jim just said. Let them say, all right, you caught us. Now, Johnny grew this stuff and we sold it. It's gone. Because this happened a while ago. So let's move forward from this point on.
I think they're going to be able to establish too. They had a test before it got to market. My guess is on the back end it was tested before it left their facility. We haven't seen that say differently yet. So some stores brought in product that was untested. I mean, we're going to see, I think, a couple more face some penalties with that in the near future.
Well,
but this is different because it can't leave their facility untested. So
Right.
it had to be cleaned, in the process, I would presume, but it doesn't make it safe.
How do you sell untested stuff in a metric store? Where's that metric tag come from?
You have to lie. You have to lie to get it there.
I mean, you're just making up.
Then if you get caught, you get in trouble.
I can say firsthand without saying facilities or anything, but I've been handed product that had no metric proper tag on it that was purchased at a licensed facility. So, I mean, we've seen it. It's out there. Hopefully these operators are cleaning up that problem. But I think there's processors have this obligation to have it tested again on transport. So at least we have that criteria piece that'll be in part of this enforcement action. The stores that have duffel bags full of stuff, that never got tested. I mean, A, there's no cost for it. B, it's not legal. So they're already coming in at prices that most others can't for the same kind of flour. So it's a different animal.
About counterfeit tags, somebody's bringing up.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible, but with RFID, I think it's really challenging.
We remember the battle to get legalized cannabis in the businesses, and everybody said, we want legal businesses because they commit fewer crimes. There's no crime, blah, blah, blah. They really pointed to the caregiver system as one that was rife with abuses. I'll be honest with you. I've seen a lot more abuses in the regulated marketplace than I ever had seen as in the caregiver world. I mean, with the exception of growing more plants than you're supposed to. I mean, that kind of is a standard caregiver thing.
Or output on your plants.
Or patient.
Growing 15 ounces.
Right.
Well, so
like burning.
we brought that up here a few
Never mind
times
all that.
before. That's an obviously ridiculous interpretation of the act. Now, in the MRTMA, it was very specifically said everything you grow, you can have. You have to keep some of it, in a safe place or whatever.
Right.
But so it didn't ever put that was
entire product of your
it was
there's a
intended for
big
when you're out and
spotlight
about,
on it,
not
too.
for when
Yeah.
not for what you have at your house. And that was a not a broad and liberal interpretation to make the act functional by far.
But if you look at 2008 and when they put forth the medical marijuana proposal, which I did not have anything to do with, and I didn't have any input on the language or structure, capping it at 15 ounces might have been one of those things that was attractive to their voter base, right? I mean, at that point, people thought 15 ounces. Oh my God, that's a
I don't think
satanic
that was a
amount of
common
cannabis.
interpretation that that's all you can produce from those plants. I think.
Oh no,
you
no
know,
one said that.
No,
But
that's all your patients can have, right?
Right.
That's all your active marijuana,
Right.
right? But the idea that somebody's going to grow 72 plants and only have that much output.
it was
is
so
absurd.
difficult to get licenses in the beginning, especially with that stupid review board. So,
Yeah.
and like, so the idea that you would do anything that was too, like
after having
outside
gone
of the
through all
lines,
of those
yeah.
challenges, maybe the system is just too easy to get into then, and we're not. I don't know.
I mean, today,
Well, they realized
to be
there wasn't
honest,
much
the threshold to get a license isn't really tall. If you file the paperwork correctly and you generally have a good background, you're going to get approved. Can you fund it? Can you build it? Can you execute on it, pass pre-qual, and actually get a license and run a business are all different questions, of course. But the pressures I think that some of these companies are facing due to some debts and due to some pro formas that were grossly out of whack with where the market actually landed, instead of taking it at its peak, it's going to sell for $3,500 a pound, and therefore raise money on that. I mean, that's insanity. They should have been looking at where the market was likely to shift once supply got to where.
They're missing a lot of perspective and making a lot of bad
There
decisions.
was a previous comment that you had flashed up about Skymint and some perhaps real estate company no longer doing business with Skymint.
Yeah.
This is one of the consequences of people who very heavily finance themselves in order to get into the industry. At the time when you were imagining it to be, a field of candy canes and sugar plums, you might have thought that having this incredible debt was manageable. But then the reality sets in, and now you're stuck with a world in which you have no realistic expectations of being able to meet your debt obligations. And now you have to refinance your debt because you can't pay your debt. So now you have to have double debt in order to, it's so crazy.
And meanwhile, most are not paying their vendors. I mean, the receiver,
Right.
most of the vendors are carrying is
that.
another absurdity in this
All the
marketplace.
time.
But
there's the why to that. If we sell a product to a store and they sell the product, it makes back their. It's just the way our market got situated on either COD or whatnot has proven itself to be an issue. But I think it goes back to when you're saying like these debts and the Skymint thing, IPP, I think was sanity. They also have to base it on realistic market terms. And that goes back to what I was saying before. If we met with somebody in 2017, I was saying predict $1,200 a pound. Don't tell them anything higher.
Right.
Now that number might be a little too high.
According to the CRA,
It's close to it, but if you were, what we saw is, the market's
$11.80 a pound. Yeah.
Yeah.
$11.80 a pound, which works out to about.
Well, I mean, there's still a
$80
range if you happen to have something that's worthy of that, but that's not a
you should be telling your investors the most conservative number when you're raising
Sure.
money so that you can make
affordable
your payments.
If you happen to make more,
Yes.
it's a bonus if it turns out better.
Yeah, and so many people raise it on false promise that it's hard to meet that 18% interest rate or whatever that they have on their.
But and some of those false promises were really based on decent information. The Safe Banking Act passed the House of Representatives 7 times. 7 times they tried to get the Safe Banking Act to get rid of the 280E problem, and it was stopped by Republicans in the Senate each and every one of those times. So if you're somebody who was watching this, you might think, well, we're going to get this within 2 or 3 years, and you would never imagine it would stretch on for this long.
Yeah, different little quirky shit happens. It's always so. Cannabis represents a lot of things, as we all know, from criminal justice to jobs to help with, in Michigan's case, roads and education and all types of stuff. But it also always gets deprioritized once somebody actually gets into decision-making capacity. It's like, maybe we'll get to that. We got to worry about the appropriations bill right now. We got to worry about guns right now. We got to, all that kind of stuff. It always gets pushed down.
The police lobby doesn't like it, so we don't support this.
Well,
you're also talking about investors who couldn't do any research on what they were being told. There was no history that they could look into. Do I want to get into this industry or not?
That's true, by and large. But there were some that made it a point to try to figure out the arena they were entering and to learn some of the more esoteric things in the emerging industry. Like, we better get to know the history, what's going on the ground here in Michigan, what this culture's like.
But what they didn't know is that weed would go from $3,200 a pound to $1,200 a pound.
They should have, though, because it's happened in other states once.
Well, yeah. If you've never sold weed, that's possible.
Yeah. Well, look, the five oldest markets in the United States: California, Colorado, Oregon, Washington, and Nevada. All of them are experiencing year-over-year sales declines in their adult use programs. Doesn't mean people are smoking any less or using cannabis any less. They're just going to alternative sources because the state-based system is so fucked up. So if you're looking at where we're going to be in 2 years, folks, that's where we're going to be in 2 years. We're following the national example. We have every single step of the way, and that means a price decrease, the crash, and then also loss of businesses.
So what needs to be done to turn that projection in 2 years? I mean, consumption lounges. Look, that law was written without any need for or any idea that something was going to be successful if they opened up a consumption lounge.
That was an after passing law rule enacted by way of the department to try to help the industry and by
they didn't.
The cost burden isn't terrible for a consumption relative to the others in terms of licensing.
Yeah, but it doesn't generate things immediately
There's no return on investment.
Nope. As an add-on business to an existing dispensary, that would be just fine. But as a standalone thing, I can't see it.
I went to Muncie today, and I was shocked at how many, or Morenci, I'm sorry. And
which is a border town in southeast Michigan.
Yeah, I was shocked at how many dispensaries I saw. And right next to a dispensary is a gorgeous space connected to this dispensary. And a friend of mine says, I tried to rent that and they won't rent it out. Why won't they rent it out? Because they're waiting for their city to come around on a consumption line. Well, they'd rather leave it vacant because there's no way to make any money at this point. There's, even flight in your city, you're not going to make any money. So there's people just waiting on the consumption line.
Yeah, the biggest shit show I've seen is in
Muskegon plates too. While you were there,
Muskegon has you'll see a dispensary on one corner, when there's another dispensary literally 50
They're
feet
grouped,
away, and another one 50 feet from that, and then down the street there's another 5.
There's no space between them. Rule,
One of our big issues is the density.
That makes sense.
7% of our communities or 8% allow for stores. I mean, they're all packed in because they can't.
There's 125, 130 of the 1,600 communities have opted in, something like that.
It's not quite 10% or whatever it is. So again, that plays a role. If you could spread it out, maybe the pricing can be a little more solid because people aren't competing for the same customer. When you mentioned Muskegon, Jim, I mean, how many customers are actually there for the 50 or 80 stores that got started? I mean, you're all fighting for the same person.
Well, that's why I think it's kind of funny that some places have this concept that they're going to put all of their, they're going to have a green zone. It's literally going to be an industrial park. It's nothing but weed stores. Like people are going to go store to store, or they're going to pick their favorite, but they want it centralized. Communities have tried to do this over and over and over, and that's not how business works.
You can't consume at any of them either, so now you got to buy it and leave. You can't even stick around, have one at one, go to another.
And that's a byproduct of their belief that the cannabis dispensaries are going to be dangerous to their community, confine all the danger in these little teeny zones. That's the only reason you want to stick them like that. You don't do that with coffee shops. You don't do that.
A lot of places make them do the 1,000 feet of cone. Stupid. That has its own issues.
It's exclusionary.
Now, I will say they do rehab desperate areas with bars. So they've taken like the Flat to Cleveland and turned it into Bar Central.
The old destination location,
Right. So I understand that concept if you gave us a working model, but without the whole working model, without the consumption lounges, without the ability to interact or smoke on the street even in front of these places, it makes no sense. And unfortunately, these politicians don't understand that it makes no sense. And they're certainly not.
Well, where it gets short-sighted too is, Morenci is a good example, and Buchanan being another, which I think they finally got some consumption area in Buchanan, but for a long time they didn't. They have all these out-of-state people coming in? How do you keep them in town? You don't want them to just buy and leave. You want them to stop for a minute, hang out, smoke, go have dinner, go buy food at, go to the shop.
Get souvenirs.
Yeah, get souvenirs. Have that antique store get walked by, by 1,000 people a day. Whatever it is, that should be part of their business model of taking advantage of the amount of people coming into town, and instead they basically chase them out as fast as they can get,
Right.
sold.
Especially Indiana, where we had a viewer that mentioned that they were from Indiana, where there's absolutely no permissions whatsoever in Indiana. So if you're going to come to Michigan, have your cannabis experience, purchase it, consume it in Michigan at a regular place, enjoy your experience, and then drive home safely. Why would we not allow for that? Why would we not create businesses that would permit that? I'd like to see actually non-businesses permit that. I'd like to see little activist centers all over the state, where people could come and just hang out, do the thing, have no sales there, but maybe.
When we first got started at Third Coast, we did have a room
Yeah.
down the hall where you could go and hang out. That got frowned upon over time, and with the new licenses and stuff, wasn't allowed anymore. But it worked. It was a good idea.
It's still a good idea.
Well, they define things with the word curtilage, right? So if I'm in 123 Main Street, Suite A, you can't just have Suite B as a smoking area, right? Because now the entire curtilage of 123 Main Street.
You have to, you can't just connect them. You have to walk out the front door one and into the front door.
Yeah,
the other.
have a common hallway, maybe. I mean,
Right.
it is a little silly, but again, at least the opportunity is there. So, despite the silliness,
Yeah, we're still moving
find a
forward
way,
in some ways.
right?
They had a concept about testing rooms in cultivation centers, and that was in a proposed set of administrative rules, I think 1 or 2 years back. The concept being that you could have a room separate from all the rest of the plants and everything else that had its own ventilation, and where you could consume cannabis. Just check it if you were over 21 years of age, and to see how well it was going. I mean, I know a lot of cultivators would love
set
that.
up, and you just go and hit your strain. And
Yeah,
move on to the next
go
one.
pick a bud off that plant right there and then bring it to me, young man. Yes,
this
we're
is
gonna
fresh.
toss this right in the.
Right,
Oh,
pull it right
boy.
off the dry tree.
Well,
The
it's
old
no
days,
surprise
Mr.
that
Stan used to come down from Mount Pleasant and hang out with us. And
Oh yeah,
yeah.
that was the former funeral home there. So I had
Yeah.
a lot of
And Girl
creepy
Scout.
little.
Girl Scout headquarters.
Yeah.
Girl Scout.
Yeah, I was just going to say that it's no surprise that the leaders that are making these laws don't use common sense, because it seems that way for most of the things that laws are being made for nowadays, and not even turning to the industry of people that are experts, like most of the people on this show and in the past shows, not even utilizing that knowledge and to help better that industry. It's just baffling to me, because it's like they're driving it into the ground by not
Man,
being active.
you add the word marijuana to a conversation, and even the most logical people start
Getting
not
stupid.
figuring out how to deal with what's
Yeah.
going on.
It's really great. And then you hope that some of these towns do right by it and continue. In Battle Creek, for instance, tonight they have a workshop, and all it says is workshop on marijuana. So called the city to find out, well, what are you talking about? Like, do I need to have people there? You getting rid of licenses? What are we doing? And it was, we have new commissioners, and they want to just talk to the planning department about what's going on. Is it good? Is there anything we could change? Last year they changed the rule on the hours, so they actually extended hours for operations, because they took feedback from the community, and
That's a good sign.
That is, and
Yeah.
it's seen as a value add to their city, not necessarily a negative, which is a positive statement. Hopefully other towns to do the same. You got to give them credit where they deserve it, and at times with the others that don't, we got to rail on them, of course.
And I agree with that, but then the changing of the guard comes in a few years in that city, and it goes back 5 years.
Yeah.
So you know what would you okay, theoretically, some new set of decision makers come in and they're like, we're not going to reissue licenses. This is every year. We can decide for ourselves who's if we want to do this. That's the whole local option thing. Everybody says that's a road that's not going to win. Like, once a business is allowed to be there, it's very difficult. Then, unless you did something that was really egregious or something that could be pointed to.
To ordinance you out is a pretty rough road to go, man. That's. Oof.
I mean, is it conceivable that some of these towns that had a progressive slant towards it approved a couple of facilities, and then the next election they came out and pushed hard to go against it. Petoskey had something similar to that.
Langsburg had 2 approved dispensaries, and they dropped it to just 1.
Nope.
The Whiskey's place, yes. And that just happened.
So we do have some semblance of this, but once you're operational and you've proven to be a good person in town, a good player, is that the person's cause that got them elected, or is there a broad scope of things? And this was just one of the items in it. But to get a whole town to turn around on an ordinance is going to take a much bigger lift nowadays. And now you got the property right, the likelihood of a lawsuit that they're going to be having to fund. I mean, there's a lot of disincentive for that, but it doesn't mean it can't happen. And certainly bad actors that can come in and do things illegally and give credence to that particular push is our problem.
There are negative voices in every community, and oftentimes they're just waiting for one bad example. Wait for one person who's been using cannabis to actually, kill a woman who's pregnant in an automobile accident, and all of a sudden, there's going to be a renewed demand for roadside testing and impairment testing, even though the science isn't there. Yeah. People are very reactive.
I'm not sure.
Never mind that they were on.
But we as horrible as it sounds,
Right. Apologize.
I'm not sure what city he's referring to, what we were talking about at the time when he.
Battle Creek is the one I was saying tonight.
Oh, having the thing tonight?
yeah,
Okay, yeah,
Exactly.
right.
It's a work session tonight. It started at 5:30.
And I know that the city of Ann Arbor's got a city council meeting tonight, and there'll probably be some discussion about cannabis there too.
Jim Salami,
Nice curtain. I like it.
nice nice salami too.
salami, yeah.
Old nickname, please.
But Ann Arbor's always been
Respectful.
they've been the place to prove that there is no zombie apocalypse because of how open it's been.
Well, that and
It's just a regular business there.
but even still, if there was some sort of horrible tragedy, Rick mentioned one a second ago. If there was a level of I hate to even use the word death, but if there was a level of death, there's an acceptable level of death for every product on this.
Alcohol kills a lot of people. We still just
No. But the government actually figures
They do
this
have
out.
numbers. Yeah.
right.
The actuaries figure this out. So what? They do this for wars. They do this for everything.
Mhm.
So when we come up with this example, 1, 2, 3, 10 dead people, how is that going to change millions and millions and millions of people that don't have problems? That's what upsets me the most is when they challenge us with these nonsensical things or these things that may have some truth or half truth to it. It's like, okay, even if you were right, the numbers don't bear it out. But forget about the people you put in prison. The industry doesn't make any sense. To close the whole industry down because you found that, one guy died from aspergillus.
OxyContin is still available for some reason, right?
Hey,
Can't look
you
for
know
logic
what?
in the
Fentanyl
thousands.
is
Can't look
readily
for
available.
logic in the drug war. It was predicated on an illogical premise, and they've always treated us differently than they've treated everything else. We can point out these discrepancies all day long, but they're not going to make much of a difference. The fact is,
They equal power over people, and that's what they're going for, not necessarily
Right.
the
But
truth.
we're not part of the drug war anymore.
We're getting better. It's getting better.
Adam, to your point earlier,
A lot of work to go.
Your great grandkids aren't going to look at this as an issue. My now 19-year-old, when she was 12 and I was getting more, full time into the industry, she's like, Daddy, what do you, I was we did a Cannabis live thing on Facebook way back when, and she saw it and said, what is this? And I said, well, you know how marijuana is medical? Yeah. Well, we help people get licensed. Okay. Her generation already doesn't view it.
It's not a big sensational deal at all. It's just
No.
cannabis.
I don't even gravitate to it because there's no taboo
Right.
to it.
I saw some people recently. Oh, go ahead, Adam. I'll get
I
back to you.
point out all the time that when California voted for adult use, there were people alive in California who had never been alive when legal cannabis wasn't available.
Exactly.
And some people, all their whole life or all their adult life, it's
Their,
been
their,
legal.
their whole life, weed was
Yeah.
legal for medicine, and now you're asking them to vote adult use? To me, that's a simple win.
So a couple people discussing on social media the other day, saying, "Well, these stores that are struggling should get to a college town. That should take care of that." I said, "You'd be surprised how like little that actually means, as far as like expecting all the college kids to show up and buy the pot necessarily." It
No,
doesn't really
college
work
kids
like
buy from other college kids. Typically, I mean, a lot of college students don't have wheels. They don't have transportation, so
Yeah,
if
what-
it's not directly
I
on.
don't even think it's that big of a deal
Well,
to a lot of them.
21. I mean,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's true. They
not
couldn't
the vast
use it
majority
even if they
are.
wanted to. Right?
What else are you gonna do in your dorm room other than grow pot?
Have a good time.
That's right.
Experiment.
Well,
Study.
My dorm was rocking, but yeah. So
Yeah, we
Study.
Right.
Yeah.
We put down the towel
Well,
and
we're
got
talking
the
about
toilet
college,
paper
right?
roll. And bounce.
yeah.
I mean, there are a lot of people out there that would rather take opiates and something made by a pharmaceutical company than take something natural like cannabis because they feel like, for whatever reason, their doctor knows better. Or the
There was some FDA study, and they know exactly how much does what, or it feels safer.
how about I get better? How about I get better relief from the opiate than I do from anything else?
Do you?
Sometimes.
Okay.
Methadone's one of the best nerve agents I've ever used. It takes
Adam really needs a lot of this shit. He makes a good point. Like it gets kind of like not used as much, or there's a lot more scrutiny before somebody will write a script. But there are many people who like really need this stuff too. But the
I mean,
use
I'm
is like
chronic
really.
pain patient.
No doubt. Yeah,
You know,
my mom's 80, and I got her to start using it about 3 years ago, taking small bites of chocolate bars and stuff. And she's had a number of different surgeries, a lot of ailments, and none of the medicines that were prescribed were working. And she gets relief. And she's a great example of somebody who was always a no. She'd scream and yell at me my whole life about smoking, and now all of a sudden, can you get me another candy bar?
Yeah,
more of those
I'll get
gummies.
you a candy bar. Yeah.
Well, that generation, there's a way to teach and a way to educate and a way to introduce it where they don't have to be blown out to get the upside.
I think personal experience is the biggest way to convert people. Now,
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
no, we all like getting blown out every once in a while, but
Just
if you're a grandparent, you've been trained to be skeptical of cannabis your entire life. You've been trained to believe in the pill system, but trained to disprove or disbelieve in the naturalist way of things. Remember, there was a time when acupressure and acupuncture were looked at as witchcraft and voodooism here in the United States of America, and now they're accepted by most major sports leagues as valid ways to heal. But imagine you're somebody like that. If your granddaughter, who you trust, you've known from a baby, she has a positive cannabis experience, that helps to turn your mind around. You have to actually see it in order for you to be deprogrammed, I think. Oftentimes people that don't have any exposure to cannabis cannot get deprogrammed from the drug war hysteria that they were pumped through for decades and decades.
The natural health world works so well that the government's been trying to get a hold of it for years and can't figure out how to get the GNCs to only carry FDA approved products.
The government or the corporations trying to push the policies in their direction, or the pharmaceutical companies, or whatever the larger interest.
They lobby for their people to be in government to get them.
Exactly, that's the point. That's where the influences are.
That's one of the things we're struggling here in Michigan with. There's a number of cases right now about influence peddling from not just the cannabis industry, but other major industries in the state, trying to get lawmakers to pass laws that would facilitate their profits.
Chuck Perricone. So the Senate Bill 660 that we referred to, I had a conversation with Paul Talinda about it the other day too. He had just been majority leader in the Senate, got out, became a lobbyist, and he got this bill through. Didn't do anything because it was contingent upon, it was a medical marijuana bill, commercial bill, but it was contingent upon
Pharmaceutical grade
federal,
marijuana.
at least rescheduling to Schedule 2. And so it never got enacted.
But that's a perfect example of influence peddling as far as I'm concerned, because what they did was they took a bunch of lobbyists and lawmakers, put them on airplanes.
He was so connected, man. He was just
flew them to Canada so that they could go to this giant cannabis farm. They provided food, drink, alcohol, room.
They showed them irradiating the big piles of
of moldy cannabis because they had to sit so long because they didn't sell very well.
Chopping up the stems with it and everything.
But you shouldn't be able to. Shut up. You shouldn't be able to take a bunch of lawmakers and fly them to your private facility, wine them and dine them That's influence peddling. I mean, come on.
That's what lobbyists do.
Well, but wait a minute. Wait, if
Spend a lot of
that's,
money to get those relationships.
if that's what you got to do, let's do it. That's my argument. Let's have a party with the
Well,
list.
so the thing about Chuck too, it wasn't like some of the laws or some people are looking at maybe making a separation between just leaving, serving in office like that and being able to lobby that same body immediately. That guy was so connected by the time he left. It was,
Yeah. He was a
And,
force.
and just to clarify, the Senate Bill 660 would have allowed, if it did change the schedule of cannabis, would have allowed Canadian companies to come in and set up a pharmaceutical program that would rival the current MMJ program at the time, and you couldn't join both. You had to join one or the other.
Pick one or the other, and you get it either sent by mail or later on they added on these special cannabis pharmacies that would, like, I guess it'd be like retail stores for these products. But
And the
it
system
wouldn't be competitive now.
It would have favored only one kind of licensee in that circumstance.
Yeah.
Like MSOs.
Yeah, and they would be growing at the abandoned copper mine in the UP.
There've been so many programs floated, and I hear some of these right now. We're going to build a giant complex that has a bowling alley and cannabis dispensary
Up in Muskegon. I think
all
that's
of
what
these
they
things.
discussed.
I'm thinking to myself, that's probably not realistic in 2023 Michigan, considering the infrastructure investment that you have to make, and that your primary revenue generator is the cannabis industry right now, which is on stilted legs. I'm not sure that's a great idea.
Well, 280E and all that goes along with the taxes too. I mean, it's an absurdity. But
Safe
I
banking.
do like the idea of hopefully getting to some kind of adventure type of place where there's consumption, purchasing, and then activity.
Yeah.
It does make sense because we
Roller
all like to
coaster.
continue hanging out. I mean, it's just we do it with bars, we do it in so many other social settings.
It's safer, man. I mean, just even now, you can get an event license and buy the insurance for it. And if you're not having alcohol, it's a lot more reasonable than if there was alcohol there.
And that's why I like Sensi, like these type of events, or even Josie's events that she's putting on. I mean, the idea that we can consume. Last year at this one, it was like, it was so exciting. Oh, wait, we could actually buy and go outside and smoke right now and do all what we normally been doing at Sensi, networking.
Don't forget to make it to Ann Arbor over Hash Bash weekend either. But you want to experience some of that.
No doubt. But
it was very cool, though. I agree. It was a breakthrough in some respects.
Yeah, but Jamie, I would point out that most of the smoking that happens in Ann Arbor is illegal.
Right.
All that smoking in public.
I'm not saying it's not.
Is what?
Illegal.
Illegal. It's a
I'm not saying that it's
civil
not, but
infraction.
it's a civil infraction in most
Second time
cases.
I've criminal. I mean, we're all breaking one law or another. Federal law
Civil
versus-
disobedience, man.
Right.
It's just
That's
fucking
but
cannabis.
that's what makes the difference there, is that these people are willing to come together and they don't care. They're willing to say "fuck you" to the man, which is what it's always been.
I want to just mention, like this is like every week, but I think it's kind of cool that we have people for Vermont, South Dakota, Indiana, all over the place. I saw a message from somebody from Europe saying we're keeping an eye on how the laws are working in the United States and using your show, and in part to see what's happening and stuff like that.
We should be less critical than I guess.
Yeah. I just think it's really cool. I appreciate it. And appreciate everybody in Michigan too, of course, because that's mainly what we talk about is Michigan stuff.
It's nice to have an international audience.
It is, and speaking of international, I don't know if you may have heard that the mayor of Amsterdam is trying to shut down public smoking.
I did hear that.
Even in the red light district, right?
Specifically in the red light.
Right, that's the main issue, probably. Yeah.
Right. And this has been going on for years, that this woman is anti-cannabis and anti-sex worker, and has been trying to control the rowdiness because they feel that these tourists come in on the weekends and whatnot. Which
You can't control the rowdiness by removing.
well, it's mostly Brits that come over and get drunk and then just get out of control. But they blame the cannabis
fucking
users.
Brits.
Right. They blame the cannabis users. And for years, she's been slowly shrinking down the red light district. They years ago, they pushed all the gangsters out. I mean, like real gangsters ran some of this stuff. And they went after them. Everyone knew the gangsters were running certain aspects of things. And they've slowly shut down coffee shops. There's a third of the amount of coffee shops as there were when I started going there 20, 30 years ago.
I remember it was it 89, Hash Bash Day that night? Like the Michigan basketball team beat somebody to go
Yeah.
to go on to the NCAA championship game to play.
Right. We got
they beat
blamed
Indiana
for
or
that
something like that. They
riot.
couldn't beat them all season. Then they finally beat them in the actual Final Four. Or whatever. Anyway, so it was huge, and there was a riot that
Right. We got
that
blamed
night.
for that.
And then they're blaming the people from Hash Bash.
We got blamed.
Yeah, they're all totally into sports, and they're totally like
Not a
up
lot
for
of blue
that.
and gold at the Hash Bash, I'll tell you.
We got blamed that same year. We got blamed for a few things. The riot. There was a sexual assault that happened between two people that met earlier in the day at Hash Bash.
They smoked too much pot and then were inappropriate. Yeah.
And the Grateful Dead was in town that weekend. So it was a pretty crazy weekend in Ann Arbor. But Hash Bash was the problem for everything.
And the problem were the sports fans getting drunk, ultimately.
Right.
After that
Yeah,
whole
great
night.
weekend.
Literally took over the streets for hours,
The police are making a little bit of hassle about this year's permits in Ann Arbor for North Street Fair and stuff because the spring game is on the same day, and like we're spread thin, yet there's no history of there being an issue,
Right.
even
It's
under those
less for us
circumstances.
over here. I mean,
And the big house in Michigan, which is their college football stadium, holds 100,000 people, and they're able to accommodate that.
Yeah, and they'll probably about 30 or 40 there, so it's not even a full game, really. It's like this exhibition game.
And they know what they're doing. They could have made it a different weekend.
And
It's Hash
those
Bash
people
every
drink, you should be there. That should be your priority,
Right.
Well, it's been other weekends many times, and
Right.
They certainly
With more
the
people.
city doesn't care, first of all, and it's the city making a fuss because they can, not because they have any real issue.
I can't believe the University of Michigan football team said, "Well, let's just fuck with Hash Bash and schedule it."
Yeah, they've done it before and it hasn't been an issue.
accidental thing, right?
Yeah.
But the city can accommodate all those.
Yeah,
events.
easily. But the police are trying to leverage this to get a little bit more out of it.
Get some
Get some
payola,
overtime, get some more people employed, whatever it is. I
pay
don't know.
for a fire battalion. I
You know what, Jim? I don't know if you.
The cops are just standing around like, this is great. It's the best events they go to.
Easy
all
money,
year.
they call it.
Yeah.
Easy money.
So, you want to let people know a little bit about your project that you're working on, or are you still going to keep that to the vest for right now?
Well, we're just, I'm working with Apothecary in Ann Arbor, it's a dispensary grow, that they produce a lot of organic materials, a lot of organic flour and organic edibles. We're just trying to increase the medical card, register, and get medical back in the forefront of people's minds. Just like we're talking about today. Like medical cannabis is so important for so many people, and the state of Michigan had one of the longest running medical laws here before it became rec. And a lot of people depended upon the dispensaries and the people with the knowledge that could go in and learn. And now you go in and people don't really know. People want to get you in and out the door and put the stuff in your hands and take your money. So this is a process that we're rolling out slowly with the universities in the area and trying to increase, the traffic of medical cannabis users. So people become more aware, and that stays as part of this industry, because it shouldn't be all recreational smoke.
There's still a lot of benefits for people getting their card.
Oh, incredible benefits. You get a discount, and having
And
that's
some of the laws have been
medical
vetted through the medical side, not yet through the MRTMA side, so you can count on.
The problem is the amount of SKUs or lack thereof that we have in the medical market. And so even in places where we have medical stores, Waterford, for instance, there's a few medical stores.
But a lot of
They're struggling just to
AU
inventory.
places will waive the excise tax
Oh,
for somebody
yeah.
if they have a card. Or
100%.
we do that at Mets Cafe, for
Right,
example.
but there's a
Well,
lot.
we're doing that too at Apothecary. We're going to pay for your card if you come in, and we're going to give you the product for the amount of money you paid for your card. in lieu of that. That's something we're still working on. But yeah, that's definitely a way to help garner that medical attention.
And you are also taking your history and talents in the entertainment world and putting together a project too. Do you want to keep that a surprise, or do you want to let people know what you're working on?
Well, no, I mean, Weed Martin is fun. You know, if you
Okay.
everyone knows who Dean Martin is. Dean Martin was a guy who sang a lot of great tunes, but he always had a drink in his hand, and he was always singing about drinking. And you know, we know alcohol is bad for us. You really shouldn't consume a lot of it. However, Weed Martin is a guy that sings about cannabis, and that's my alter ego, I guess, that's coming to fruition here. And maybe I can get Weed Martin to do an appearance on this show one day. But
I
We
think
love
that'd be very cool.
I think Tom Wall, who's a staple at Hash Bash and a lot of the events that we've had over the last
The guy that plays with plants with the
years.
little electrodes.
Yeah,
Machine.
he's going to be at Hash Bash, and I think Weed Martin's going to get up there and maybe do one of the. It's not the song "My Favorite Things," but the song "My Favorite Strains," and we're going to sing that one and just see if we can,
Yeah, that sounds cool, man. And
Awesome.
Jim did do a Dean Martin character in Vegas for a while with like a Rat Pack show and stuff.
Yes.
So the background of Dino himself is pretty familiar to him, so that works out really well.
Yeah,
That's really cool, man.
It's really great.
yeah. Dean Martin's a great character, and I don't want to disrespect anybody who loves Dean as much as I do, but I know that this is just a great fit for cannabis. So.
It was
It's
a lot
awesome.
of fun to hear you do the song "My Favorite Strains." Yeah.
At the MICA conferences, usually with Lewis, who's this guy who shows up, just jams with the band and everything like that. Meanwhile, he's like the owner of Apothecary. He doesn't participate in shit. He just shows up as the band,
Great musicians, great talent, those guys. Yeah.
He enjoys it. That's how he.
No,
he
it
enjoys
is
Yeah.
cool. Good for him. And he's very talented dude too. They sound really good every time. So, Jim, while we're still talking to you, anything else you want to get in as we're starting to wind down here a little bit?
Enfield Fest is coming in September again, September 17th. It's a Sunday. It'll start at 1:11 p.m. We're still
Start making
working with
plans
the
now.
Michigan Initiative for Community Healing. That's a group that everyone should be a part of. Search Michigan Initiative for Community Healing and donate some money. That is the initiative for 2024 to get it on the ballot, if we can't get it passed before then, to decriminalize plant medicines and really all drugs. I think is the final goal for this, because it should, we shouldn't criminalize these things. A lot of people who take any sort of drug or plant medicine, they're doing it to better themselves, or they're doing it because of some mental issue they might have or some physical issue. And we need to treat it as such and not as a criminal issue.
Right on. Craig, anything you want to leave us with? Thanks for joining us
No,
all
thank
day.
you for having me.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure. I always love talking with you guys. And look for Dehydrate out in the market in the near future. And look forward to getting the feedback. And I hope everybody enjoys the products that we are producing. Thank you for the time and the opportunity to chat.
And you're available for legal help for businesses.
Yeah, also,
right?
I don't know if Flau is always available to help anyone who's got questions on licensing and regulatory issues.
Right on. Speaking of issues, Adam.
I have issues. Contact me if you can help me with my issues. I won't call. I refuse to call. No, I'm good. I ain't got nothing to say.
Well, appreciate your input today too, man. You were at this event either last year or the year before.
I was. It's a great event, and I actually, I'll admit it here. I've actually attended a few industry type events, and I was at the Hot Box Social a couple times, and I'm impressed at what I see. I haven't seen the big boys. I'm talking about the mom and pops.
They try to shut them out whenever possible, or just don't go to their stuff.
And I'm impressed with what I see. So I wish these events, good success. Knowledge is power, and that's what happens at these things.
Appreciate it. Good stuff. Yeah, we had Josie, Marlena on earlier. And
Jamie Cooper.
Jamie Cooper, obviously, we're going to see again because she's here running this event at Sensi Magazine. And appreciate everybody's involvement. And this is
Rick Ansis was on too.
good stuff, man. Rick Ansis, Big Cloud, the Puff and Putt fundraiser for Glenn coming up. All that stuff. It was a good show. Talked about some cool stuff. Appreciate everybody's contribution. Let's end it with Rick.
You know, we're here at the Sensi Magazine Mardi Gras party at Causeway Bay Hotel in Lansing. And I hope that we're able to do more remotes like this with Jazz Cabbage Cafe as the year goes on. I know we have one coming up with Light Sky Farms, and I really am looking forward to being able to bring a level of education directly to people as opposed to just being podcasting. Grabbing people, throwing them on air, letting them have a chance to tell a little bit more about who they are and what they do. That's growth, and I love to facilitate that. It makes me proud. So I'm happy about today's Jazz Cabbage, and I'm looking forward to tonight's event.
All right. Thanks a lot. See you guys. Jazz Cabbage Cafe next
Cool.
week. Appreciate everybody.